And I'm back here in the Fandom Zone. Welcome to another great edition of Fandom Zone Talks. And today I have on a very special guest who I have been trying to get on my channel, and I am so glad that they were able to free up their schedule. So you guys probably already know this individual, but go ahead and introduce yourself to all those people who may not know who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josiah. You may call me Josiah Rises if you want to, or just Josiah, whichever you prefer. Or the red hat guy. You can call me that too if you want. Or the bearded red hat guy. Whatever you prefer. I appreciate you having me on, General Zod. It's an honor to be here, and I am excited to geek out with you tonight and talk about whatever we're going to talk about. So,
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever watched my channel, but I play it close to the vest, so
oh
I
boy.
just gotta let the conversation go where it may. But yeah, so this is just my interview, and I've been doing these, hoping to get everybody who is part of the collective or the menace, or just like smaller channels who need people should watch and need support, because when I first started, Mary kind of got me started and said to pay it forward. So I
Nice.
created this show to try to kind of do that.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool because I think that's one of the things I like the most about the Phantom Menace is how helpful and supportive at least a lot of people are in the Phantom Menace. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I started with like 28 subs, I think, and then I joined KoToR and everything, and kind of started growing from there. So I was like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many subs I got. I'm just going to do what I do and try to interview people. So today, sir, we are going to get in depth, and we're going to get to know the man behind the channel.
Oh boy. All right. Sounds good.
So yeah, I'm doing my best, Walter Cronkite here, and so I mean, I actually wrote down questions and stuff. And anyone who knows my channel, I don't normally do a lot of notes, but just to kick us off, I wanted to kind of get an idea of how your channel started and what your inspiration was behind coming to YouTube, because we're all a product of the media kind of destroying our franchises. So I was wondering if that started you on your way to getting, trying to reach more people, or was it something else, or were you just doing this before 2016?
Right. Yeah, so I've been kind of involved with YouTube for a while, ever since about 2010, 2011. I had some other YouTube channels that I kind of had along the way and stuff. I used to make a lot of like short film, sketch type of stuff on YouTube. And I've been really into like filmmaking most of my life as well, and kind of all of that type of stuff. So I've been kind of in the whole video making process for a good portion of my life, most of my life, to be honest. And I was really trying to get into filmmaking professionally, and that it's a lot harder than I had ever even anticipated. And the cards just didn't really play out for me the way that I wanted them to. So so I was kind of trying to figure out where I wanted to go after that. And I was this was back in like 20, this was actually just only last year, at the beginning of last year. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I kept on thinking, I could try to get back into YouTube because I've been kind of out of it for a while. And I knew that I always really just enjoyed talking about movies, talking about entertainment, pop culture, all of that type of stuff. Because before this channel, Josiah Rises, I used to work for Geeks and Gamers back in the early days, back in like 2015, 2014. And I used to make content for the YouTube channel back then, just kind of talking about movies. And I used to do it with another guy. And we used to just kind of have like these table talk type of videos where we just talked about things that are happening in the movie business and in the entertainment industry and all that type of stuff. And I really enjoyed that. And that show kind of got kind of canceled at one point because of new management that had come into Geeks and Gamers and stuff. That's kind of a whole story all in itself as well. So I was kind of like, I kind of missed that whole time where I was, talking about entertainment and kind of bringing my take to it, because even back then I was kind of getting annoyed with a lot of the stuff that was happening in the entertainment industry. And of course, this was after like The Last Jedi came out. Now, I'm not really like the biggest Star Wars fan necessarily. Like, I wasn't impassioned by necessarily The Last Jedi and what happened with The Last Jedi. More so just the entertainment industry in general, because I could see a lot of the woke nonsense that was starting to creep more and more into things that Hollywood was making. So I was kind of inspired by that to kind of start Josiah Rises. And even back then I was like, you know what, I really want to just focus on doing mostly movie news type of content. So of course I also did a lot of trailer reactions back in the day, because I always seemed to have good luck with those for some reason. Even when I was doing some of those types of videos for like Geeks and Gamers, they always did really well. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do kind of trailer reaction type of stuff, because that always, for some reason, has always worked out really well for me. So I started doing that, and movie news type of content. And of course, the trailer reaction type of stuff really is what started to catch on first, and that really helped me out in the early days of my channel. Then I started to do more of the movie news type of stuff. And this was kind of even before I was kind of necessarily part of the Fandom Menace. Like, I wasn't really doing much with Geeks and Gamers at this time. I was kind of just doing my own thing, because Geeks and Gamers kind of took off on itself without me. And part of it was just kind of me feeling a little bit like, I don't know, maybe I failed the Geeks and Gamers YouTube channel in some way or something, because, you know, Jeremy got on, and after he started ranting about The Last Jedi, the Geeks and Gamers channel kind of took off, and I was like, man, you know, I kind of feel like I poured in a lot of work into Geeks and Gamers, and it didn't really do anything when I was working on it. And, you know, Jeremy came along and he started talking about The Last Jedi, and it started to really take off. So I kind of felt like that I wasn't really part of Geeks and Gamers even necessarily at that point. So I was kind of just doing my own thing. I wasn't really part of anybody, any sort of community or anything. And, my channel was doing well. It was slowly growing more and more. Reaction videos were doing very well for me and things like that. And then it was kind of it was kind of at the beginning of this year, actually. I started to talk with Jeremy more on a regular basis again. And I did a video, and I sent it to him, and I was like, hey, you know, this is just a video that I just recorded, and I was saying if it was something that you wanted to throw on the Geeks and Gamers channel possibly. And he was like, you know, I love this video, so yeah, let's do it. And so that video went up on Geeks and Gamers, and it did really well. It got over like 100,000 views. And he was like, you know what, if you want to start making content again for Geeks and Gamers, you know, I'm more than happy to have you back on. So then I started to kind of get back involved with Geeks and Gamers again. And that's kind of how I kind of came into the whole Fandom Menace community and stuff, was kind of through the back door there with Geeks and Gamers and stuff. And I started to get to know people in the Fandom Menace as well. And, you know, during that whole time, my channel just continued to do well. And now it's kind of at the point where my channel is just having dramatic growth over the past month or so, more so than ever. And I can't even keep up with how much my channel's been growing recently, but it's been really, really amazing. So that's kind of the basic gist of it, I guess.
Yeah, man. And I mean, 9K, I was ecstatic when I reached 300.
Yeah, dude, me too.
I was like,
me too, man. I remember when I first broke those triple digits, and I was like, oh yeah, rockstar, man.
now 9K, so I mean, you know, when you start getting into those thousands, is it like a different feeling, or are you like, oh no, I just went up 1,000, it's all right?
Yeah, it's kind of that way a little bit. Like after you hit 1,000, it's kind of like, okay, now the next grind is kind of like 5,000, but more so like 10,000. So you know, it's kind of like it is exciting every time you hit another 1,000, but you know, when you hit like 10,000, that's kind of like the next big leap. That's like going from like, you know, kind of like in the hundreds to the thousands, you know. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'll probably be hitting the 10,000 in the next couple days. So it's pretty exciting. I'm very, very excited about that.
And before we continue, I just want to give a couple of shout outs to some people. Jay, welcome to my channel. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you shilling for us. My awesome de facto mod Tommy, who's just been on my channel, like dropping links like crazy. I love you. We got Stevie J Reviews, part of the Fandom Zone Bridge crew, and PB is lurking in here as well. If you guys watch the channel, you know he's my partner in crime and keeps me in line during the late nights. So,
Nice.
or tries to, anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I wanted to get your take on a couple of things, and one thing that I noticed we do share is me, sir. I am a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I was actually watching your video about someone dropping out of the new Lord of the Rings series they're making.
Yeah, Will Poulter. Yep. He played Eustace back in like Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the Narnia movie. And he's been around ever since then. Like he was in like the Maze Runner movies. Man, he was in Revenant. He was in the movie Midsummer. He came out in Midsummer this year as well. So he's
that's where I saw him from, because I seen Maze Runner, but I was like looking at the picture. I'm like, man, he looks familiar. It was Midsummer. Yeah. So I was trying to place it.
yeah. I like his acting a lot, and I was very excited for him to be a part of that series. But I guess the scheduling didn't really work out or something. So yeah, it's kind of a disappointment that he left that. But yeah. What are you excited for the Amazon Lord of the Rings series? What are your thoughts about it?
I got to tell you, I am super excited. Amazon, well, my thing with Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon and all of them is that Amazon is not as bad as Netflix at this moment, but no. I did notice some of the stuff that I don't like creeping in. I watched the new season of Jack Ryan.
Okay.
And a lot of it was slanted in the second season. I mean, not enough for me to turn it off, but kind of to get weary about what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
I haven't seen Jack Ryan. I'm watching The Man in the High Castle for the first time right now. And I am absolutely loving that show. It is really good. And then obviously The Boys. I don't know if you watched The Boys that came out.
Oh, yes. I'm a big comic fan. I watch The Boys. I've got the comics.
Okay, nice. I haven't read the comics, but man, that was such a good show. Dude, it was so good.
Believe it or not, the show is actually watered down compared to the comics. Like,
oh, man.
Yeah, and I was watching it, and I'm telling people, and they're like, no way. And I go, yeah. There's a lot of things that the creators wisely, and it's a case, and this is what I was definitely looking forward to talking to you about. It's a case where you have certain directors who take things out.
Yeah.
And, you know, today, editing for content feels different. You know, there's a huge difference between putting stuff in your program that may be over the top and then just editing it because it'll hurt someone's feelings, or it'll marginalize a group, as we all hear. And with that comic was the case of, yes, the creator was like, there's just some stuff I thought wouldn't play well, you know, because I'm trying to reach the everyday, viewer.
Right.
And some of the stuff is so extreme. It's like, he's like, I had to tone some of it down so that people could get into the show.
Right. Right. Is that more like I guess like adult themed content, or what kind of content did he like tone down necessarily?
Well, all right. For instance, that scene where the Aquaman guy kind of cornered Starlight or whatever.
Yeah, right.
In the comics, the whole entire team does stuff to her. And then makes her feel ashamed about it. So he cut it to where it was just that one guy instead of putting that whole storyline in there.
Gotcha.
So it was stuff like that where he was like, he made those appropriate cuts. But see, that is the problem these days, isn't it? Is that directors, they aren't focusing on the content as far as paying respect to something and then making your edits based upon whether or not a general audience is going to either A, understand what you're doing, or B, maybe it is a little bit over the top. They're just editing content for messaging.
Right, exactly. I completely agree with you on that. Even going back to like you said yourself, you're a big Lord of the Rings fan. Even going back to like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies, like they obviously made changes and they cut things out of Lord of the Rings, like Tom Bombadil, things like that wouldn't really make sense to the general movie goer and stuff when they go see Lord of the Rings. But those were decisions that from a cinematic standpoint, you understand why they made those kinds of decisions. Those kinds of decisions are not the decisions that directors make nowadays when they decide what kind of content to cut out. And it's very frustrating because, a lot of the time content just isn't, I've been talking a lot about this on my channel recently, especially is that like the filmmakers nowadays in Hollywood, they like to start with their whatever type of political narrative agenda that they want to put in their movie, and then they kind of build the rest of the movie, the story around that. It's not the other way around how it used to be with a lot of writers and filmmakers and stuff where the story came first. It was still like the priority. It was still what they focused on first and foremost, and then naturally whatever kind of worldview those filmmakers or writers had, those would just kind of naturally seep into the story. And that, I think that kind of is what makes it not as annoying for people from movies earlier, from like the past decades or whatever, because those messages aren't like in your face all the time. But nowadays it's the other way around, where they start with whatever agenda that they are focusing on, and then they make their movie around that agenda. It's so annoying. I hate it so much, man.
I agree. Like I had a discussion on my channel about safe spaces because I watched the movie No Safe Spaces, me and my girlfriend, and it inspired me to have this talk. And I'm glad to have you on, because if I could have had you on later, but I stream so late I can't get anyone because it's just like too late. But it starts, I'm feeling like it's starting early. Like they're fostering these things in like colleges and things like that. So when people go out into the world, they're going out with this idea, this one-sided, narrow idea of what the world is like. And it's seeping into all facets of entertainment, because you got the people who are becoming execs, who are becoming filmmakers and writers and things like that are coming from these big Ivy League schools and things like that are now creating these safe spaces, and safe talking, all that nonsense. And I'm sitting there watching going like, my goodness. And the irony of the word safe space is that when they talk in the supposed safe space, the person who initiates the talk is the aggressor. And if you relate that to cinema, it translates and makes sense to things coming out now, because it feels like a very aggressive tone. I went to see that movie Black Christmas, Josiah, and I had to bring it up because you had mentioned in a couple of videos, and I gotta say, I've never rated anything on my channel a 1 before. That was the first movie I ever gave a 1. I normally give it a 5.
Right, exactly, man. Yeah, nobody's liking that movie right now. It's just getting absolutely destroyed from literally every aspect imaginable. So, and it's kind of I don't know if you saw like the new Charlie's Angels that came out or not. But
yes.
Yeah. So like Sophia Takal, the director of Black Christmas, and Elizabeth Banks from Charlie's Angels, they both had very similar mindsets, points of view, where they, and it's actually pretty cool because I've been talking about this, like I said, on my channel a lot recently, but Jeremy Johns even brought this up in his review for Black Christmas the other day, where he was talking about the whole idea of like these filmmakers they're so like obsessed with their ideology and their agenda that's like all that they care about when they're making these movies. They don't care anymore about the story or storytelling or celebrating that or relishing in that or making great characters, making characters that people care about, that people love, that people want to identify with, that people want to relate to. They don't care about any of that anymore. They're literally just using the medium of movies to piggyback their agendas on. That's literally all that they're doing nowadays, and it's so frustrating, man. It's so frustrating.
It is, because and I did watch that Jerry John's review. That's like my ultimate goal if I ever get really bigger would be to have a chat with him, because I've shared a lot of perspectives on his reviews. Mm-hmm. And I think he put it better than I could even put in my review. It was a social justice message. That was the whole point of it, trying to be a movie.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you could see that. And here's the thing that boggles my mind about all of these people who do it. One, why do you want to do a remake? That's asinine within itself. And two, I've had Stig on, and he comes on, but he says the SJWs, they don't have creative ideas, right? And I'm tending to agree with that, because one, how do you mess up a remake? You have the material right there.
Yeah.
And two, how do you make it so boring and uninspired? I mean, only twice ever have I gone and seen a horror movie and been bored. The first one was oh god, that movie was so terrible I can't even remember it, but it was the kid with the funny eyes. Yeah, that was a terrible movie.
Wait, like the evil Superman movie or whatever?
No. I liked that one. It was The Prodigy. That was the name of it.
Prodigy. Okay, I don't think I've seen that one. I don't think I've seen that one.
Not very many people did. Trust me, you're better for it. And that movie had a somewhat decent story. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, even in a horror movie, there's a solid. And I went with my girl because she likes cringy stuff and likes to make fun of it. And we're sitting there watching, and I'm falling asleep on her shoulder going, oh my God, I wish just someone would die, because this is just boring, preachy nonsense for about like a good 45 minutes to an hour.
Man. It's
and it's like, this is the problem with movies today. And I mean, take The Last Jedi, for instance. That's a great example. You have all the hallmarks, and let's just be fair to it for a second. Visually, it's a well-shot movie. It's got its moments where it looks beautiful.
I absolutely agree. Yeah. Yep.
But when you break it down to its essence and you look at the story, which is a big thing I do, it's like a schism in the story. You got the first half that might be passable, but then it just gets worse. And you see where there's like a break in between the storytelling, where it goes from kind of making sense to then bam, it drops off a cliff. And you're like, this doesn't connect to this. And I mean, even in your own movie, you are contradicting things you said earlier.
Yep.
And that's the problem with this writing, is that you can't sustain a story if you're just running on ideas and politics.
Yep. Right. Exactly. Like, a great example of that is obviously Cannibite is a great example of that. Being one of the worst subplots I've ever seen in a movie in my entire life. Absolutely horrible. And then purple-haired lady, I can't even remember her name.
Goldo.
Yeah. Like during that entire movie, I was watching it, and we got purple-haired general running around, giving orders and like being all weird, secretive and stuff, and not telling anyone what's going on. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what is the point of this person being here? Like, I was just like, she's literally serving no purpose being here. She's just keeping secrets from everyone, and Poe's just chasing around, being like, "Tell us what's going on," and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, and then I don't know, like I was just that really was kind of one of the first movies that, like, I was just like so surprised that this is where Star Wars was getting to as well. That Star Wars is now infected by the wokeness just as much as pretty much everything else is. And I'm just like, man, this is a depressing time. It's a really depressing time. So Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's so true. Like they put in these things that don't serve any purpose to the story, and it was so obvious in The Last Jedi watching it. So yeah.
and see, that's the problem, and the reason why I think we all talk about this, because I know there's certain groups of individuals who are like, you guys always seem angry and quick to jump on things. And I gotta admit, sometimes when I see something in a movie, before I give it a chance, if I think it's going in that direction, I've been a little bit harsh. But then I watch it and I go, oh, okay, this is actually balanced. I just have to give it a little time. But I feel
Mhm.
like that Hollywood has created that kind of condition to where the moviegoer does have to be on their guard these days.
Yep.
Because I mean, you can't ever say there wasn't messaging in movies. Like you said, it's always
Right.
been ingrained in the story. You could go back to the 70s and 80s, take Apocalypse Now, or
Hmm.
Platoon. I
Yep.
mean, those were anti-war movies, but they are some of the greatest movies of
Right.
all time
Exactly.
because of how it was written. It doesn't come off to you as a protest, but rather as a perspective of the
Yep.
soldier and the times. I mean, even Dead Presidents, when you think about the story for Dead Presidents, is a direct protest, but it also shows how the veterans were treated and
Hmm.
some of the choices they had to make when they came back, because unlike most wars, they were really like hated at that time period.
Yep. Exactly.
It, so,
Yeah.
I mean, there's messaging there, but it's not the message that's the problem. It's how you present the message and how you
Mhm.
write the message that's important.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, man. Like I don't care what message the filmmaker has in their movies. I can appreciate when someone has a different viewpoint or worldview than I do, because even with that, I can at least, think about what kind of a message they're trying to tell in their story if I want to, or I can just enjoy the story for what it is if I want to do that too. That option is there to do it either way if I want to with older movies, but they don't give you that choice anymore to decide how you want to interpret the story. The story has already been interpreted for you by these filmmakers in whatever sort of political way that they have given you the story. So, yeah.
And we were talking about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and here actually in my chat is Perp Minded. Shout out to Perp. Me and him had a great discussion. I just entitled it Star Wars because I'm very original with my labeling, or kind of lazy at days. Um, so we talked about Episode 9, and I said to him, I don't want to come at this like a lot of people are, and they have good reason. Not saying that they don't, but I really do want to enjoy this. And he likes The Last Jedi, and we had a great discussion. But see, that movie created a problem because unlike uh, the people that I have on my crew and everything else, or the people that we talk to, is that I've never seen a movie that created so much hatred and animosity. And the irony is, movies are supposed to be an escapist thing.
Hmm.
And no one wants to go to see a movie when you're trying to escape from real life that beats you over the head with real life themes. That's not
Hmm.
why you go to the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
It, and so, I mean, it's the exact reason why the movie industry is suffering the way it is. I mean, I work at a theater and I teach martial arts, but I do the theater thing because I love movies and I get in for free so I can do reviews. But
Nice. Yeah. Yep.
right, but I mean, you know, I remember, because I'm not going to state my age, but I was around the '80s, and I remember when going to the mall, and then you'd hang out with your friends at the food court, and you go and you see a movie with all of them, and it'd be massive groups of people, and it'd be you and your friends, and sometimes you'd stay after at night and sit down and talk or whatever, maybe
Yep.
cause some ruckus. And nowadays the theaters are becoming so dead, like
Hmm.
a Saturday, and the parking lots aren't even full.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, do you think this is a direct result of the products that they're putting out now?
Honestly, I think that definitely plays into. I think there's a lot of reasons why theaters aren't doing as well nowadays. I think that is definitely one of the big reasons why. I also think that Hollywood isn't focused on making movies nowadays that people feel like they need to go see in the theater. I think that is a huge problem, that Hollywood is just, you know, kind of turned into this kind of like factory machine where they just kind of pump out the next Marvel movie or whatever, just to get a quick buck in the theater, and then they just kind of move on to the next thing. They aren't really focused on making experiences anymore in the theater. They aren't focused on making movies that you feel like you need to go see with your friends or anything like that, which is why I think Joker was so successful, because that was a movie that people felt like they needed to go see. Because, you know, of all the controversy, obviously, in the media because of that film, but also because it was something that you have never really seen. You've never seen really a comic book movie interpreted that way before. So people were like, oh, you know what? That's pretty cool. I should go to see that movie because everyone's talking about it. And I think that's part of why Joker was so successful. I think it's part of the reason why Joker is like one of the best examples of how to do a movie nowadays in Hollywood. And there's not very many else. There aren't really many other movies that have come out this year. I'm just using this year as kind of an example that you feel like you need to go see in the theater. Maybe Avengers Endgame would be another one, because, you know, that's kind of the closing of, you know, a 10-year storyline. Pretty much everyone went and saw that because of that. But besides that, there aren't really any other movies I can think of where I feel like that the audience was like, yeah, I need to go see this movie. And Hollywood just isn't in the business of making movies like that anymore. And I think that is a big reason, especially since we have streaming nowadays. You know, people can just decide to just stay home and watch something on Netflix if they want to, instead of going to the theater. So, you know, I think there's a lot of reasons why. And I do think that the whole, you know, political stuff that Hollywood is really obsessed with nowadays, and pushing all of their woke messaging and all that type of stuff, I think that plays a big part of it as well, because they are isolating the general moviegoers that go see movies nowadays, that moviegoers, they're isolating the general moviegoers because they don't want to go be preached at by movies in theaters. So yeah, I think there's definitely a bunch of reasons why.
Yeah, and I'm doing a podcast on this. I'm gonna shamelessly promote myself for a second. I've got a podcast that's on Spotify, so look up the Zodcast, and I'm going to talk about this. But I think that there is a different mindset, because I've talked with a lot of different people, because working at the theater, there's a different mindset between the fan and the normal moviegoer, and it plays
Right.
a big part into what's going to be a hit, right? And so you can be upset as a fan about how certain things are, but it may play better with the general public because they don't know the material, they don't have the backstory on it, or they don't know just enough to know what the movie is about. Mm-hmm. But that works in the reverse too, where you can please the fan and the normal moviegoer won't get it, because once again, they don't know where it comes from, they don't know the mindset. You know, Lord of the Rings is a perfect example. Like, there's people who would get a lot of things if you read the books, and I don't know if you read the books. I'm pretty sure you did.
Oh, yeah.
But my God, that was the hardest thing I ever read in my life.
Yeah.
I felt like I went on an adventure to Mount Doom after that. I was just like, oh dear God, I'm right there with you, buddy. This is the longest trip ever.
Yeah, I mean, I love. I'm reading the Silmarillion for the 4th time right now, so like, yeah, I'm totally on board with watching pretty much anything or reading anything from Lord of the Rings. Like, I love. I mean, I think I read Lord of the Rings when I was for the first time when I was 8. So I don't know. Like, it was so weird. I've just been so fascinated by Lord of the Rings even back then. Like, it didn't feel like a slog for me when I was reading it. Even back then, I was just so into it. It was I know a lot of people kind of feel that way when they read it, but it definitely wasn't the way that I felt about it. So
it was different because I started with Stephen King. Like I'm the inverse for King. Like I'm like that. Like I've read his books. I've read them a couple of times. Like my favorite, like his epic, is the Dark Tower series. I've read that so many times, and I cried when they made that movie.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because it was so bad, and I was like, this needs to be a series, not a movie. You can't compress that into like 2 hours. But yeah. So like I started on the Stephen King end, so I'm like, okay, I read long books. I could give this a try, but he's got a way with his writing where it's so descriptive and very detailed, like
yeah,
every little thing. And I respect that because that gives you a really good layout in your mind
yeah.
about like where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And when they said they were making a movie, I said, oh, good Lord. That is going to be hard to do because this
Right.
is probably the most descriptive writer in the history of writing. Like the details in those books is really hard to translate. But that was a case that we get very few of them these days, where the director, Peter Jackson, actually cared. I
Yeah.
mean, and to do what he did in those movies, and the care and the attention to details. I remember watching like a HBO where they used to have the like behind the movie or whatever, and seeing how he built the Battle of Helm's Deep and all
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Yep.
And I mean, it's astonishing. And I mean, 3D effects were there, but not like they are now. So you're
Right.
not like talking like green screens and things like that. I mean,
It was
they're
very,
building
very
sets
practical
and
still back then. So
I know. And let me ask you something from your perspective, because we both are lovers of various films. Do you feel like that maybe CGI also affects the creative process as well?
Yep, absolutely. I've talked about this before. I wish that I kind of still wish that we were kind of in the early 2000s, because I feel like we got the best visual effects from that time period, because that was kind of in the period where we were kind of, you know, we still had practical effects, but we also had visual effects. Like filmmakers had both at their disposal, and because of that, they liked to blend the practical and the visual effects very well. And I thought that they did a really, really good job with that. Like Lord of the Rings obviously is a great example of that. We had plenty of movies that came out from that kind of early 2000s time period where Hellboy is another great example. Like Hellboy back
Yep.
then looks even way better than the Hellboy that we have now.
Oh,
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is another great example. They did such a great job with blending those kind of CG effects with, things that were still real, like still took hands to build. And I thought that because of that, I miss those days where things weren't just, where like everything wasn't just CGI. I miss those days a lot. So I feel like it's very hard for me to actually feel like I'm immersed in a world nowadays, because everything is CGI, and you can tell. Like that's the difference, I think, even with like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The Hobbit used pretty much nothing but CGI for pretty much everything.
yep.
And you don't feel like you're in that world in the same way that you do with Lord of the Rings. You don't feel like you could reach out and touch the stuff that's happening in that story. Like the orcs are even CGI in The Hobbit. I'm like I remember the first time that Azog came onto the screen in The Hobbit, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Why is the orc CGI? What? What are you doing? He did not look real. He did not look like he was like actually there, like the orcs do in Lord of the Rings. And it completely takes you out of the experience. You don't feel like you're immersed anymore because of just everything being CGI. It drives me up
And
the wall.
and I mean, you brought up Joker, and people will tell you me and Stevie J show the crap out of that movie.
Mhm.
When I do my best of 2019, you guys won't even need a hint as to what my number one's going to be. But
Joker's my number one too, man. I love that movie so much.
but that's the thing. Okay, we had people coming out of the theater, and they were like, "I don't know how to feel about that movie," and it's because when you try to nail down what it is, it's because you could tell that a lot of that is practical effects. I
Yep.
mean, I couldn't even place. They probably did use CGI. If they did, I can't place where it would be at.
Yeah, maybe for a few things, but not very much.
Yeah, most of that is just straight up raw acting and practical effects and good storytelling.
Yep.
And I think that you're starting to see a lot of these other films going that way. We got the Ghostbusters trailer that looks like it's heading in the right direction. A lot of other stuff where you're seeing these guys going, hey, this little movie here with a $45 million budget, maybe 50 if you include advertising, which wasn't really that strong considering what kind of movie it was.
Yep.
Made $1 billion. I think a little bit past that now.
Yep.
And, we got these big blockbusters come out and they all flopped. I mean, it ran against Terminator, and no matter how you feel about it, Terminator in all actuality, given how long the Joker had been out, should have at least edged into number one, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it couldn't do it.
Nope.
Why? Because no one wanted to see that.
Yep. Exactly.
No one wants to see a movie where they, spoiler alert, in case you care, kill one of the most important characters in the beginning of the movie. No one wants to have their dreams crushed, and then you're pissed off watching the rest. Like, when I watch the beginning, I go, this is a weird move, because I've never seen a director actively try to piss off his audience in the first 5 minutes of the film. It astonishes me. You normally wait to drop that bomb to the end, because you got me in here. No.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, that was, hey, I'll give it to Tim Miller. That was a ballsy move. That was a very ballsy move. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Like, I really do think that Joker is going to be a movie that Hollywood's going to pay attention to for a long time. Warner Brothers themselves didn't think that Joker was going to make any money, which is why they gave it like a budget that was barely anything. So I think a lot of people are going to pay attention to the success of Joker and try to understand what made that movie successful. And I hope that will be used in a positive way. It's kind of hard to tell right now, but I really do hope that the way that Hollywood takes that movie and the success of that movie is in a way that will be at least positive and beneficiary for the audience. So we'll see.
Now, I don't know if you heard, because Birds of Prey has been under big contention, and I was kind of on the fence. I was still always going to see it. Another thing, if you don't know about me, I'm a huge DC shill. I'll admit it. I've been a DC fan since I was a kid, reading comics. I've always broken the holy rule in comic book, kind of ways, and I've done a little Marvel and a little DC, so I'm like a pariah, but I lean more towards DC. And I was on the fence until recently. They had said that they are trying not to make it a feminist piece, that they want it to be about the characters.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, that is great. And it's great that finally, instead of leading with, oh, this is a female empowerment, girl power, you're going to get a bunch of strong women who will beat up the males. Don't you want to go and see this?
Yeah, right.
I like how they took the inverse, and they're like, no, we've got strong females, but it's not about that.
Right.
It's about the story, and we hope you enjoy the story. And see, that makes me want to go and see the movie more now.
Exactly. Because it's like, oh, you actually want to put the story first. Okay. You will have my interest for sure.
So
yeah.
Let me ask you, with Wonder Woman has been a big thing, and what did you think? Did you get a chance to, because it's been floating around, to see the interview that Gal Gadot had, where they tried to trap her on one of those questions, and she very eloquently responded about what her movie was going to be like.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about her acting, because I know some people are like, she's an okay actress. I respect anyone who is good with the press, and we were talking about this before. Press is so important. I don't think these people realize when they're putting this stuff out how important it is, because you can kill your movie almost immediately with bad press.
Yep. Especially nowadays, man, because like anything you say can just be out there on the internet in the matter of minutes, and everyone will know about it. And everything travels a lot faster nowadays. So, I think that really, I think that the press means a lot more. Not just the press, but just like, I don't know, even with just like social media and everything. Like, if you say something about your movie, everyone's going to know about it. Literally everyone's going to know about it. So.
Oh, yeah, Twitter's the worst battleground ever.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, it
is. I'm sure I've only ever once, thank the good Lord, and people don't start making this a habit after I say this, but I've only been once tagged into like an ignorant thread with people attacking where I felt stupid and I actually responded back, but I felt like I got dumber after the whole experience. And I'm like,
yep.
I'm like, good God, these people are vicious. So, I mean, rumors, you mentioned the 2000s, and we'll go like, say, 90s, 2000s, right? Mm-hmm. You take a movie's promotion today and you put it up against what it was like, 10, 20 years ago. And it's just like so vastly different because, the internet was a thing, but it wasn't as much of a factor as it is now. Yeah. You didn't have widespread. You had word of mouth and you had television spots.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that was it.
Yep.
And of course the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember like when Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was coming out, and I was very excited. I grew up reading, reading like C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and all the classic authors like that. So, I was very excited when The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was announced. And the only way that you could really keep up with the information about the movie was by going directly to the website for the movie. There wasn't anything else back then. There was no social media. There was nothing. Like you literally just had to like go to the website if you wanted to find out anything about the movie. And then at that point, it's pretty much just like you and your family just like talking about what the latest news is. It's there was no one else. So times have changed dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, word of mouth was so big, and like now, a movie's legs can be cut off or extended so much quicker than before. Like, I mean, you had some cases that even movies that tanked in the box office back in the day are cult classics now. Yeah, because it was just they didn't have the mass media, so they didn't have thousands of people tweeting out going, hey, this is a pretty good movie, you guys should go and see it.
Yeah,
so
right.
And I think that attributes to a lot of it. And I was talking about like marketing and what I find interesting. So, and the problems between Lucas and Marvel, and they're a great comparison because when you think about it, they're both under the evil empire.
Yep. Yeah, they
are. They're both like bros. But when you take a look at what Kevin's doing and how very clever he is with the marketing, very clever, very smart. He could take a movie like Captain Marvel and make it $1 billion. And all of us said, it'll probably do well, but not $1 billion. And we were all wrong on that.
Yeah.
And why? Because the marketing was good. Maybe Brie Larson said stupid things, and I just want to punch her in the face. But
right.
The way it was marketed was great. And then you go to Lucasfilms and you look at the way they market stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like night and day. And I'm like, how are you guys under the same corporation? And yet, you have one person who clearly knows what they're doing. And then you have the devil on the other end and she has like no clue, right down to market. Like, okay, if she makes a crappy Star Wars movie, I can write it off as she just doesn't know filmmaking. It's not strange. You got a lot of business people who don't know the film aspect.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Get better directors and stay the hell out of their way. That's easy to fix. But when you don't even know how to capitalize on marketing, how the hell are you in charge?
Yeah.
It baffles my mind.
Yeah, it's terrible, especially when you think of the fact that she has, you know, like the most popular IP ever in her hands, and she produces flops like Solo and all this type of stuff. It's like, how do you screw up that badly that you produce a Star Wars flop? That shouldn't be a thing, you know, like even if the movie does badly, it shouldn't be a flop. But that's what Solo was. So, you know, good job.
I mean, when you bring in someone like Ron Howard, and let's be honest, Ron Howard is not a bad director by any stretch of the imagination. He's created some really great films.
Yeah.
But when you bring someone in like that and they can't even fix your movie,
yeah,
that says a whole hell of a lot about what you're doing. And swinging it back to DC, it's why you see DC so uneven. It's this theory like they need someone who can rein it in. Like, I strongly believe, after seeing the way that Kevin negotiated the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you need someone like that who's not only good and hires the right writers and gets the right talent around them, but more importantly, hires the right people to market it and to get people interested in it. And I think that's where you find nowadays a lot of these movies flopping. Like, I mean, look at Black Christmas. Like, honestly, all joking aside, I knew what that movie was going to be when I walked in. I didn't know how bad, but
yeah, right.
You could tell just by the marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the poster has the 5 girls on it. I was like, oh, yep, we're going this route.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's pretty obvious to tell what kind of movie that's going to be. So.
So, I mean, it's like, so many things play a key factor, and this is the thing about this movement, and this is why I'm part of the group and why I'm so excited to get you guys on here. Is it's good to see different perspectives, and like me and Perp talked about it, and we were like, you know, we all come together because of the fact that there's a lot of things that they are doing and a lot of IPs they're jumping into that are classics, you know, and there's nothing wrong with rebooting a classic.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with even switching up the story a bit to tailor it for a modern era.
Yep.
What there is a problem is raping and pillaging the sources and disregarding everything because it doesn't fit what you feel the world view is now.
Exactly. Yep. Just treating that property with disrespect, pretty much, you know, in the way that Lucasfilm did with the sequel trilogy, or sorry, the Disney Star Wars trilogy. I don't call it the sequel trilogy anymore. So, so yeah, like you know, and that's the crazy thing about it too, is when you think about back at like Kathleen Kennedy and how she had that meeting with George Lucas, and she was like, you know, we're going to treat these characters with the respect that they deserve, and it's just like, man, she just like lied, like right at his face, like, wow, that's okay. She's an absolute snake. But yeah, like and that's the thing. Like I'm not even totally against like remakes or reboots or sequels or anything like that. It's just the fact that pretty much every remake, reboot, or sequel we get is complete crap compared to the original. And that's where my problem lies with it mostly, is because no one can do a good follow-up to any of these properties. The only one that I can think of that has been like a recent successful reboot, I guess prequel, whatever you want to call it, is the Planet of the Apes movies that have come out in this decade. That's like the only example I can think of where the reboot was a success and it was well done. So
yeah, and I do agree with that, because when you look at it, and The Lion King is a perfect example. You can, I mean, that pretty much was a cut and paste of the original, but the difference was it didn't have a soul to it, and everyone I've talked to has said the same thing. You know, you have the songs, you have the people, but you don't have the same steps, and you don't have the same movement. You don't have the same inflection, the same emotion. Okay, I was watching The Lion King this morning because I do have Disney Plus. I mean, you know, I got my daughter and everything.
Yep.
So we were talking about animation, and you know, when you look at the life that's in that cartoon, right? When he's singing, "I just can't wait to be king," and you see how he's bouncing around, his tail follows. You know, he's chasing after the beetles and everything, right? And it's so exciting, it's so vibrant, it's so full of life to it.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to the new version, and it's not saying that John did a bad job or wasn't trying to do something inventive and different with his version.
Yeah.
It's just, it felt like it had no soul behind it. It felt like a shell of what the original was. And that's the problem with reboots and retrends, is they lack the soul and the substance of that which they're copying or redoing.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. And that's really more of where my problem lies. Like, yeah, I would love to. I wish that we had way more original, you know, content than we do coming out. But the fact is that even with the content that we're getting with all of these reboots, remakes, and sequels, like none of them are really anything that I'm looking forward to anymore, because none of them are good. Like none of them are anything that I'm very excited about, because Hollywood doesn't know how to capture the passion or the magic of the original anymore. And yeah, it's disappointing. It really is. So
yeah, it's like you know, I think of it like cooking. You have the original chef, right, who makes the dish, whatever it is, and then you have another chef take his place. Now, if you have a good chef, he might change the original recipe a little bit, but he'll spice it up. He'll add his own unique spin on it, and he'll be creative. Now you got these cooks that can't cook, trying to take a master chef's dish and make it, not only make it, but try to make it better. And they can't, because they don't have whatever it is, that thing that makes you be able to make your own dish or do it better, whatever it is. It's that X factor. A lot of these people don't have it, but yet, you know, they say all the right things, they know someone, and they get out into the world and they get these positions, and then we're stuck with 15,000 terrible movies that come out simultaneously and make it hard for me to pick what I'm going to go see.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes me very excited for Ghostbusters Afterlife, is that the director of the guy who's behind the movie, Jason Reitman, is the son of the original Ghostbusters creator. And I think that is what makes me very excited for that movie, is because he understands the world that his father created. He understands the characters that his father created, and I think that he is going to be able to carry over that vision that his father had, even if he, you know, does his own thing to it, adds his own spin, his own characters, all that type of stuff, which he obviously is doing. He at least will understand the vision that his father created with the Ghostbusters. So
Yeah, you can see, even with the way that they present the trailer and everything else like that, you can see that that passing of the torch. And I think that's what's important, especially with legacy things. And, you know, that's the problem in Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
There was no proper passing of the torch. And it's not to say any one character was bad. Look, I liked Force Awakens. I know a lot of people. There were some who didn't like it, but most, thought it. Hey, it was okay. Let's see where this goes. And that was what was lacking, was there was no passing of the torch. So
Mm-hmm.
now you get to this point where it's like your heroes didn't earn what they're getting. There was no journey, or the journey they took is very disjointed and kind of weird.
Yeah.
So when you get at the end, you're forced to care about people that never really earned it in your mind.
Yeah.
There never was a proper passing along. So
Right.
when you get to this point now, you're like, well, why? Why do you deserve this honor? Why do you deserve to carry this title, to be this person,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not just Star Wars, it's anything that has legacy attached onto it. It's like they don't know how, which astonishes me, they don't know how to pass the torch. It's like they
Yep.
don't know how to properly um you know bring on another generation, bring
Mm-hmm.
on another crew, and you can
Right.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible. It's actually quite easy.
Yeah. Exactly, and I mean, it's so obvious that like Kathleen Kennedy is not a fan of Star Wars at all. Like it's just it's obvious. It's obvious that she doesn't care about the story and all that. Like at least with Kevin Feige, at least he's a Marvel fan. At least he loves the comics. At least he's someone that actually is a geek and a fan of this type of stuff. Kathleen Kennedy isn't one of those types of people, which I think is one of the big problems with having someone like that in charge of Star Wars, is that she just doesn't care. She can say that she's going to respect these original characters, but at the end of the day, if she doesn't even care about these original characters, how much respect is she really going to give these characters?
Exactly, and that's the big thing. And like you look at the Mandalorian, right? I've been reviewing it now for a while, and I'm shilling the crap out of that too. God, I'm becoming such a shell. Anyways, oh no, whatever you do. But yeah, you look at that, and there's there's those debates, but I feel like it's a healthy debate again amongst different channels on things we should be basing on, like
Yeah.
show quality or whether a scene worked or not, as opposed to, oh my God, look at the agenda here, here, and here.
Right.
And it's so funny because that's the one I feel like they put it on Disney Plus, kind of like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a Star Wars show here. They give it 8 episodes, which means if you come from television, that's very trial. Like, yeah, we gave them the money, but we're gonna see.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Right.
give you 8 and see how it goes, right?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you can see within the writing, even if it's not the greatest at times, or even if there are some missteps fairly, you can see though the level of care, right? And that's a show. And I
Yep.
watch it and I go, why is this so hard to translate in a 2-hour movie? Why can a
Yeah.
20-minute show do what a 2-hour movie or 2.5-hour movie can't do?
Right. Exactly.
And it's like you said, there's people that clearly care behind that. And see, she wouldn't be so bad if she got more people that care. You
Yep.
don't have to care about the product. That's fine. If you're up at the top and you're in the ivory tower and you're like, I just care about money.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, then, for God's sakes, hire some people who care about what you're trying to put out. Because guess what? You're not going to get the money you care about if you don't get the people to watch it.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I guess that's kind of one of the things that I hope Amazon takes away for Lord of the Rings, is that if they want to play their cards right, they should at least try to assimilate Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings in some way with the show that they're creating. And if they do that, I think that they'll be just fine and they will be successful. I think that it'll be a fine show and it'll be successful. If they try to put in all this additional crap, if they try to go of the way of Disney's Star Wars trilogy, then it's like it's not going to be successful, especially with Lord of the Rings. Like the fan base for Lord of the Rings is just as passionate about Lord of the Rings as Star Wars fans are for Star Wars, and it's going to have the exact same reaction from the Lord of the Rings fan base as you know, the Star Wars fan base had for, you know, the Star Wars movies that Disney is putting out. So I don't know, like I just hope that Amazon will not be stupid. That's all I hope for. So
Amazon, I could, you know what? I'm going to put your mind at ease. I can say that I trust Amazon a lot more than, say, Netflix. Netflix has gotten really sketchy now with their stuff.
Dude,
but Amazon has been on a roll.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. Watching a lot of Amazon's shows recently, which I've been doing, I've been trying to watch as many of their at least their bigger shows as I can. Like, you know, like I said, The Man in the High Tower, The Boys, The Patriot, all of that type of stuff. And they really do focus on putting out quality shows, which I appreciate. I feel like they are a lot better at understanding the craft of storytelling than Netflix is, which makes me a lot more nervous with like Netflix doing Narnia, because Netflix has like the rights to everything Narnia related, and it freaks the heck out of me because I don't have any sort of hope for Narnia now. I'm just like, yeah, Narnia is pretty much dead at this point probably, but at least hopefully maybe with Amazon, Lord of the Rings will be shown the respect that it deserves. So yeah.
I really hope that comes out well, because you know, but that's the difference. I feel like nowadays streaming, and you know, even a broken clock is right twice. So I mean, Netflix does have their shows that they do, and they do them well.
Sure.
So does Hulu, so does Amazon. But I feel like streaming on the whole gets it, and that is a huge problem. And I mean, just from being at the cinema, you know, it's a big issue, and it makes me nervous for the future, because when you think about how popular theaters now were back then to how they are now, we've had a 20% decrease in our theater alone. I don't know what it's like for the bigger theaters, because I work at in comparison, a smaller theater compared to the big ones next to me. And, you know, we've had some dips, and it's like you could start to see the cracks in movies in general. And it makes me nervous, because I just think, you know, with streaming getting the way they are, and, you know, Netflix got that, the Irishman, you know, and that's like, that's a big deal, because if they can start making and getting actors like that, making movies like that, then, I mean, what is film going to look like?
Right.
I mean, Martin Scorsese coming to Netflix?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know if you covered the same articles, but they were nervous about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually I didn't touch The Irishman too much on my channel, but I totally agree with you. Like, it's pretty sad, but it's really sad for me, because I'm a cinema guy. Like, going to the movie theater is like my favorite thing to do ever. Like, I love it more than pretty much anything else. It's really sad when I'm at the point where I'm more excited and looking forward to watching a show at the end of the day than going to the cinema. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I am more excited to watch the next episode for The Man in the High Castle than go see anything that's in the theater right now. It's depressing. It's really depressing.
I know. I've found myself like sitting back, like, oh, I can't wait for, you know, this show or that show. And I mean, I've seen a lot of the Amazon stuff, so been pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
or catching up on things people told me to watch, and it's like it makes me nervous, because this is what Hollywood doesn't realize. Them doing what they do now is a danger to the world of the theaters, because I picture Hollywood, like, say we go back to Greek mythology, you picture Hollywood as like Mount Olympus, right? But then you got all the other little places and the little gods underneath Zeus, right?
Right.
And the stuff rolls downhill. So with Hollywood pulling their crap, they're not bringing in the crowds. Well, now you're affecting the theaters, and if theaters can't make money, then you're affecting the workers, and then you're affecting the distribution, and then you're affecting what sales can push in stores. DVDs and who's going to sell what, and movie rental places, and all of that stuff. It makes me
true. Yeah.
It's like major dominoes that they're not thinking about when they're playing these games with what they're putting out.
Yeah, so that's a really, really good point. Yeah, I guess I haven't really looked at the picture that big before, but you're absolutely correct. Like it affects so much. And I really hope that, because Hollywood is either going to go in two directions. I hope that Joker's kind of the I guess kind of the first early sign that Hollywood is kind of steering back in a better direction. Hopefully with even with Ghostbusters coming out next year and stuff, hopefully they'll continue to be kind of showing that that's where Hollywood wants to get back to again. Or they're going to continue to give us, crap like Terminator Dark Fate and Charlie's Angels and stuff. So which, I just don't understand. Like, it would be just so obvious for Hollywood to look at. You have Joker, and Joker is done better than, Terminator Dark Fate, Charlie's Angels, Black Christmas, all of these agenda-driven films combined. And not only that, but Joker, because of its budget and stuff, it's turned out to be even more profitable than movies like, Avengers, and it's definitely going to be more profitable than Rise of Skywalker. Absolutely. So, it just, like, Hollywood, just wake up, realize that you're heading in the wrong direction, and if you want to continue to sit on your pile of gold, you better start making movies that people want to go see again. So
absolutely, I 100% agree with that. And I think that people, the reason why I like having you on, and all the people in the group, I think people get a bad misconception from like the Phantom Menace, or any groups that were attached to it, like, oh, we're just attacking these people and stuff like this. And anyone who watches this or may watch this later, or happen upon the video, it's not like that. It's that we want to see these things. No one more than me wants to endorse these different franchises.
Right.
But what we don't want to see is something that has no heart. And I'm not even talking about from a fan perspective, you destroying like my childhood.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm talking about just people from the basis of writing, from the narrative sense, from everything that makes storytelling what it is.
Yeah.
They're destroying the very art of telling a good story. And that's the biggest crime.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm someone that it's pretty forgiving when it comes to like creative decisions that filmmakers and writers make. Like, if they took the story in some direction that I wasn't expecting, that's fine. That's the writer doing their job. They're just trying to tell a story and all of that stuff. And I can forgive that. I'm totally fine with that whatsoever. But when it gets to the point where the choices that the writer is making is making the story crappy, or way less creative than it could have been, or making the political agenda more of the priority than the story, then that's where I'm going to come in and I'm going to criticize it.
And the thing that people need to understand with the whole Phantom Menace title, which, fine, if you call me that, I'm glad to be put in that group of people, is that we all have something in common. And it's that, not that we want to bring franchises down or whatever it is that the shill media may say. It's not that we are constantly hating on things and all of that. Everyone I've ever talked to in this group has all been nice and like you know, supportive, good people. It's that at a point, if people don't say anything, if people stay silent and they don't protect the things that we grew up with, I'm a father. What are you going to have to pass down to your kids? What, I mean,
Yeah.
what, movies are like drawing on a cave wall. It's passed down through generations. You sit down with your kids, and I remember being a kid and my dad sitting down with me and watching like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, or something
Yeah.
like that, and being like, this is a movie, let me show you why. And you watch it and you got that amazement. And what do we have now to get that spark in the kids? They're not just destroying franchises, and we're fighting for preserving the beauty of writing,
Hmm.
for the beauty of storytelling, for what it's supposed to bring out. I
Yeah.
mean, agendas shouldn't be in it, not because you can't have a message, but because it's killing the essence of creativity. It's
Right.
killing what makes movies a beautiful, great thing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's really sad. Like, I have a daughter as well, and you know, um, pretty much anything that we watch besides some of the the movies that are coming out that they're just like new release movies, pretty much everything that I show her, everything that I let her watch are movies from like early 2000s and earlier. Like there really isn't much after that I'm like, yeah, this is like a movie that you have to watch, um early Pixar movies, the classic Disney movies, things like that are movies that I am a lot more excited to show her rather than, I don't know, emoji movie or something stupid like that. so so yeah, like I don't know, like and I think that she can kind of I don't know if your daughter's the same way, but I feel like that um my daughter is a lot more excited about watching those early movies as well. And it's cool to see because I think that even like I think kids really do understand story better than what Hollywood think that they can,
Oh yeah.
so my daughter gets way more excited when we watch like the earlier movies than the movies that are coming out nowadays. So
Yeah, my daughter's slightly older, so I went to the cinema and we went to see uh when I took her, it was like Captain Marvel had come out, and then Fighting with My Family. And I'm
yeah,
like, I wanted to see it, and it's that dead choice when you want to go and see something, but you got your kid with you and you're like, are they gonna watch this? So I explained to her what the premise was, and she came out, and I swear from the mouth of kids, she goes, I felt really like after seeing that, like girls could do anything. It was great. And that was great for me because the movie actually had a positive message. And she might not have gotten the nuance of everything that was being said,
yeah,
but she got enough of the feeling from the movie where she was like, yeah, this is supposed to inspire me. And kids know that innately. They know
yeah,
what is supposed to get them excited.
yeah.
And so when I saw that, and then she looked at Captain Marvel, she goes, Dad, I don't want to see that. That looks boring. And I was laughing so hard. I was like,
Yeah,
yep, from the mouth of kids. That's
right.
like
Yeah, exactly. No, Fighting with My Family was a great movie, man. That's one of my favorite movies of this year. Like the whole arc, journey, character story of that movie with I don't remember her name, the main girl's name, but her whole like character arc was just beautiful. It was so well done. And by the end of the movie, when she beats that one girl in the fight and stuff, man, I was like choked up. I was like, this is awesome. This is so good. This is the type of strong female content that we need more of in Hollywood. Not Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel can get the heck out of here and never come back again. This is the type of stuff that we need right here.
and it's so funny that like you were saying, kids can pick up on that. And
Yeah,
my daughter's heading into the teenage years, but it's funny how intuitive she can be about those things. And I mean, she likes like some questionably bad films that she took me to see and dragged that along. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the whole, she's got a good sense. And it's funny because Hollywood doesn't get that. And that's the problem I have with a lot of these movies is they treat their audiences as dumb, like we're idiots, instead of what they used to do and be like, hey, you got to figure things out. There's none of that. And people, kids, no matter who it is, they like that. We like to go in the films to maybe we do have to piece things together, or maybe you do have to figure things out. And once again, Joker's a prime example, right? The whole thing of figuring out what's real and what's not, because you're dealing with someone who, clearly isn't all there. And that intrigues people. And, those are the things that I think are important, and that's missing, and that's why I like having you on here and other people, because I want to break through the misconception that everyone in the Phantom Menace is this big evil person, and like guys who hang out with Jeremy or who are attached to geeks and gamers, they hate everyone and they hate Star Wars and they want to see it all burn. It's like, no, we're normal people. We don't have the power to tank things, people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah, no, yeah, and it is really tiresome that's the viewpoint that a lot of people on the outside have of us. And I think that most people, if they actually give us the chance, they actually decide to check out the community and see what we're actually about, will. And I have talked to people that have done this actually, that they had one viewpoint of what the Phantom Menace is, very negative viewpoint. We're all just haters, so we just scream at the sky all day and stuff. And then they actually talk to us. They start to actually have a conversation with us, like on Twitter or whatever, and watch some of our videos and stuff. And they're like, oh, you guys actually really aren't that bad. Like, you just care about your entertainment and you just want to see it better than what it is right now. And yeah, like it is really cool to get to talk to people like that, and to have them kind of wake up from what the general perception of us is, because we do care about our entertainment. That's the thing. Like and I tell the story all the time. There's this girl that works at Family Video. Yes, I still go to Family Video to get my movies sometimes. But she is like the biggest Captain Marvel fan I've ever met in my life. She knows that I'm a Marvel fan. We talk about Marvel quite a bit whenever I go in there, and she's just like, Captain Marvel is like my favorite character. Captain Marvel is like my favorite movie, and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, fine. I definitely don't agree with you. I definitely am not a fan of Captain Marvel, but if you like Captain Marvel, then that's totally fine. I'm not going to scream at you or say that you can't have that type of opinion about it. And I try to tell that story a lot, because I feel like that's a very general perception that people have about the Phantom Menace, as well as that they say that we're just like an echo chamber and stuff. And it's like, no, if you can be part of the Phantom Menace and love The Last Jedi. The problem is that when you get to the point, when you take it that extra step where you want to cancel our opinion because we don't like the same movie that you do, that's where I have a problem with it. And that's where most people in the Phantom Menace have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Perp, which, by the way, little side note, because I know he's dying to know this question and he's probably still listening. He wants to know if you like anime.
Yeah, I'm kind of a noob when it comes to anime stuff. Like, I still haven't watched too much. My wife was the one that got me to anime. Before that, like, I was just like, yeah, whatever. Anime looks retarded. But then she was like, no, you really got to check some of it out. So, we watched Naruto Shippuden. We watched Death Note. Attack on Titan is my favorite anime of all time. I love.
You and Perp just became friends. If he's listening to this, that is like, if you go to his channel, he's got reviews on it. He's gonna start like DMing you 100 times a day.
Nice. Attack on Titan's great. I'm currently watching My Hero Academia with my wife. Ajin, Demigod, I think that's what it's called, or Demi-Human. Is
oh yeah, the Netflix. That was really good.
That was amazing, and I still want a season 3. Like, can we please just get a season 3, please?
Yeah, where they left that off, there should be a season 3.
Yeah,
I'm very shocked that we haven't seen one yet.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't know, it was amazing. So yeah, I still haven't seen a lot of like the classic animes that people tell you must see, like Cowboy Bebop and what's that one called? Full Metal Alchemist, things like that. But I do enjoy anime a lot. So yeah.
Awesome. So one day we might raid you and see if we could get you to talk about anime.
There you go.
We do every once in a while. We do discussions, but that's that's a nice fun fact to know. See, I've unearthed something new I didn't know.
Yeah, there you go.
So I know that you're on a time frame and that you're super busy. So I don't want to keep you too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do appreciate being able to like dive deep and get to know a little bit about you and a little bit more about your channel and things like that, because I think it's important. I think it's important for everyone to know you guys and to know that, like, you guys are everyday people, and that, people can talk. I know it's crazy. We can talk, and just because we don't share the same opinion doesn't mean we can't have open dialogue. It's crazy. Everyone who's listening,
What?
I know.
What?
Conversation. Oh my God. But, it's possible. And I want people to know that, everyone that I know and that I talk to and all of you guys are so cool, and that you guys have a good open mind, and that this misconception that goes around on the Twitterverse and everywhere else. I guess you guys made public news.
Yeah.
You look the Rise of Skywalker coming out. So congratulations on that.
Yep.
Wish someone mentioned General Zod.
You know those Phantom Menace people, those toxic people?
I'm pretty sure John's had to mention you guys a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because we all know Campy is about that emotional weight. Oh, God. That guy. But,
yep. Good old John. Good old John.
he's the okay. So, really quick, a funny story for me. We do the shilling, and we like where we make fun of them. I haven't done it in a while because there hasn't been any movie that they've endorsed that I felt they needed to be highlighted about. But we did it for like other stuff, and I went from like really hating John to just going, why does he say the things he said?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Some of the calls he makes, I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, John, is this serious? Or are you just like, are you being paid? Do you honestly love it? I can't tell the difference anymore, John.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, I definitely don't hate John Campia. I actually tried to listen to I guess I kind of listened to it more so than watch it, but his show every day and stuff, because I mean, I like to have other opinions thrown at me and hear what other people have to say about stuff, and I feel like John Campia is pretty much kind of on the opposite spectrum of my opinions, so so I like to hear his side of things and stuff, and yeah, I'm pretty much pulling my hair out pretty much the whole time he's talking, but I definitely don't hate him, and I'm glad that he has the platform to be able to voice his side of things as much as we have the platform to voice our side of things. So yeah.
And that's why I'm so glad that you came on, and I really appreciate it, because if nothing else, I mean, I know I'm not the biggest channel in the world, but if nothing else, I want people to know that, you guys do come from different perspectives, that the mess does have different points of views and different people doing different things, and different insights, and we're all just normal people at the end of the day. We all work our 9 to 5s. We all are, I mean, some of us have families and kids and things like that, and girlfriends or whatever, and at the end of the day, we probably from this don't get paid a whole hell of a lot, and we do it because we have a passion about something.
Yeah.
And you guys aren't going to condemn someone or burn them at the stake just because they have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
You might not agree with it, but, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
We all need to talk, have dialogue, have conversation.
Exactly. And I would totally be open to talking with John Campea about this type of stuff. I'm totally open with it. Hey, if John Campea tomorrow was like, hey, you know what? I've been a dick to you guys and I want to be part of the Phantom Menace and stuff. And I'm going to continue to like and hate the things that I like and hate, but I'm not going, I want to, be open to having conversations with you guys. I'd be like, okay, you're one of us now. Welcome. Let's talk. Let's have conversations. Just, don't tell us that we can't have our opinions on things that you don't like. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So before we get ready to wrap this up, do you got anything that you want to share, promote, let people know about?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to go check out my channel, Josiah Rises, you can. I try to keep things up to date on there with everything that's going on in the movie industry and stuff. And I am kind of working on a couple things kind of behind the scenes, sort of. I'm trying to get another channel going that's going to be more like story driven type of content for the Phantom Menace. So I'm currently working on that and I'm very excited for that. And I guess follow me on Twitter too. That's also a good place to keep kind of up to date on stuff that I'm doing and working on. So yeah, that's at Josiah Rises both on YouTube and Twitter. So yeah.
And shout out to my awesome mod because he had all that up before.
Yeah,
we even started something.
Tommy's doing great. I see you in there, Tommy.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And I appreciate having him, dropping them links. And as always, I appreciate you guys all coming and having a Phantom Talks. I enjoy doing these. My goofy side is my late night talks, which, by the way, don't forget about Mando Monday. We will be talking about episode 6, Prisoner. Nice. It's going to be me, PB, Perp, Stevie J, just giving you our insights on what we think, and we're going to break it down. Hopefully PB's watching, so he knows to get his notes ahead of time, because he's kind of like, the other day, he was like, son of a bitch, you didn't tell me. I got to go back and write notes. Because, I mean, we break it down. Like, we go scene for scene, and we just talk about everything and kind of lay out what's good, what's bad, what worked for us, what didn't, give our ratings, all of that. So join us tomorrow night for Mando Monday. It's going to be great. And thank you, everybody who's been watching. I hit 10 people. So for me, yay.
Yeah, and if you want to have me on again sometime, just reach out to me and let me know. And now that I know that you're a Lord of the Rings fan, we should definitely have just a Lord of the Rings talk sometime. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, I would love that, man. I could definitely go through all of that stuff thousands of times. I got the extended edition and all that. So
dude, Yep. That'd be awesome. That'd be really awesome. So we'll have to keep in touch about that for sure.
Oh, definitely. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and I appreciate having you. And by the way, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you're new or you just popped in and happen to see this crazy person talking, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like the content. And everybody already knows the rule here in the Phantom Zone: kneel before General Zod.